Hey, this is Jeff, and welcome back to Coito Ergo Sum Less Talk, More Action, a series which I'm doing to show new content, consequences of different player choices, and use more of a Let's Play format than the Q&A series I did 2 years ago for version 1.0 of the mod. Last week, the handler asked us to help her discover who killed pre-war porn celebrity Fresca Coy, which brings us to a brand new location west of Lollipops and Spring Mountain. So, let's step outside.
Welcome, stranger. We get few visitors in the valley. If I can be of aid, it would be my honor.
Are you a guard or something?
No, I am a simple farmer, but the others call me mayor, so I thought I should be the one to greet you.
How did you know I was coming?
The dark places whisper their secrets to those who know how to listen.
I suppose they whisper through that warning light on the shed.
You caught me. When many men used these tunnels, they didn't want to meet halfway down a 100-foot bore.
Can I get some directions?
Sure. What would you like to find?
I'm looking for the police station.
That would be in town, as far north as you can go before the ruins. We don't have much use for it.
And are there any shops or other services?
Our marketplace is between the two intersections, near the general store. You can find the blacksmith and saloon in town.
Don't suppose you have a brothel?
Just an ancient one near the canyon, but we don't go south of the schoolhouse. Evil spirits walk there.
Evil spirits, huh? Well, I may have to perform an exorcism. Okay, got it. Thanks.
My pleasure.
Where does the tunnel go?
I was going to ask you, but do you have amnesia or something?
Actually, I do. There's a barren valley many hours east. Beyond that, it's blocked. And west, I don't know.
Probably just another barren valley. Lot of those around here.
You've never explored it?
They say it once connected the meadows to a city of angels. We have meadows, and angels are unpredictable, so few here want to waste enough torches to find out.
Enough about the tunnel?
If you find out where it goes, let me know.
Can you tell me something about this place?
There are few things I enjoy more.
What's your tribe called?
We don't have a fancy name. We're just the people who live in the valley. Hey, that's a pretty good name. The people who live in the valley. I like that.
How did you get here?
We have always been here. Over 2,700 moons ago, the wise man warned his people that the angel of death was coming. He told the people to forsake their technology, and when the angel came on wings of flame, those who heeded his words were spared. We are the grandchildren of their grandchildren's grandchildren.
Does anyone ever leave?
Don't know why anyone would want to. Oh, sometimes the young and adventurous let curiosity get the better of them. But the rock slides and ruins are treacherous. The canyon is haunted by the sins of our ancestors. And beyond the carcass of the iron horse, there is nothing but 100 miles of desert.
Interesting, if oblique. That's all for now.
Okay, but any time you want to hear a story, just ask.
Okay, goodbye.
Walk safely.
And down there's the marketplace. And I don't think that's the other side of the same rock slide just west of Lollipops, but I guess there'd be a lot of them along Route 160, Blue Diamond Road, where it goes over Spring Mountain. Some people working a cornfield, maize field, sorry. Ooh, there's some serious frame drop. The changelog for version 3.3 says it fixes the frame rate and crash to desktop issues in Pahrump, but apparently not for me. Oh, of course, I get some lag in vanilla locations too, the strip in particular, so maybe it's better for some people?
Hi.
Hello. I mean, this computer isn't as fast as my laptop, but it's newer than New Vegas itself, and I just upgraded the graphics card a year or two ago, 2 gigs of video RAM, so it really shouldn't have any trouble running the game. Anyway, I wanted to swing by the South End, check out the evil spirit situation, and see if there's anything I can loot from the ancient brothel that two mole rats mentioned that might be useful for lollipops. And here we have the cherry orchard, which I think might be a reference to the real-life chicken ranch. Hilly has a very distorted view of history, but part of what he told us about prostitution is actually true. It really is legal in parts of rural Nevada. There really is a town called Pahrump with several brothels, and this is just about where one of them would be in relation to the town. Okay, the bad news is Fraps stopped recording about halfway through the battle because the hard disk was full. The good news is maybe that's why I was seeing so much lag. So let's try this again. Yeah, thought I might be able to shoot something through that hole in the ceiling, but we'll go upstairs in a minute anyway. And here's the sports bar again. Like I said, the monitors were probably to keep up with odds and scores. And slot machines in the back, the kind of stuff you see in every business around Vegas, whether it's a brothel or a convenience store. Some blips on my radar. Not sure if they're in the kitchen or upstairs. I just got done a series with Fallout 4 a few weeks ago, and I like how markers on your radar show you elevation in addition to bearing, but I have mixed feelings about how enemies don't show up until you actually get eyes on them. I understand it's more complicated for a level designer to stage a good ambush in Fallout 3 in New Vegas, especially if the player has high perception. They have to set up a trigger zone and spawn enemies on the fly if they really don't want you to see it coming. But I also think it's kind of unrealistic in Fallout 4 that you need to have line of sight, because if the enemies are just milling around, a character with high perception should be able to hear floorboards creaking or smell them or whatever. Perfect world, I'd like to have a detection radius that's larger the higher your perception is, like in New Vegas, but with a lower detection chance depending on what each enemy is doing. So like the guy in the next room who's walking around smoking and humming a tune shows up, but the guy beside him who's crouching silently behind a box doesn't. I don't think there's any good loot in the manager's office, but we'll pop in and have a look. Not really. Oh. Forgot about that too. Compared to Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, New Vegas doesn't let you zoom the camera out nearly as much when you're in third-person mode, which makes it a lot less useful for peeking around corners and such. I mean, admittedly, it's pretty close quarters in here, but even outside, you can't get a really wide angle of view. Bathrooms. Convenient, because I need a drink. Ooh, 18 rads. Yeah, I'll go thirsty. Caution. Oh. Smooth. Hey! I got jump scared by a ghoul. I keep forgetting I don't have a silencer. Even with Sneak 100, firing a high-powered rifle indoors is gonna get their attention. This hole in the wall and floor is where their war dramatic was. Oh, I didn't actually show you the War Dramatic yet. There's a working one at Lollipops, and you can collect patterns that unlock new outfits it can fabricate. We can still download the patterns for the one that blew up from this terminal right here. That one unlocks lingerie and sexy underwear. Which, these ferals and nighties are a nice touch. They were prostitutes who worked here before the war. I love how the Fallout series explores varying degrees of the prejudice against ghouls. Like, Tenpenny can't tell the difference between Roy Phillips and a feral. The NCR seems a little more tolerant, but they still station all of their ghoul rangers at one outpost, that kind of thing. But you see so many ferals that you get kind of desensitized to the fact that they were people once too. Like, this one isn't named, but she has a different nightie, so she's presumably Bonnie, whose diary is right here on the table. We have entries starting in September 2077, about 6 weeks before the Great War. Maybe that nosy newspaper bitch had a point. I pretended like I don't know Geraldine's a junkie, but when you think about it, most girls do this to pay for one bad habit or another. Plus, Slippery Jimmy really does treat us like slaves sometimes. He's taken to leaving and locking us in for air raid alerts. Says it's to protect us, but sirens go off all the time now, and I bet he just don't want us getting spooked and running off. Gets kind of lonesome. Good thing Mabel fixed my vibrator. Next one is from October 4th. Heard about Larry Slater on the TV today. They're going to hang him for sure. Jimmy had a real hoot about that. It's a shame. Always wanted to go over and see if they was hiring. Half them girls become movie stars, and even if they don't, they get to lay with pop stars and senators and billionaires and such. All I ever get is fat convention drunks and overeager college boys. Maybe a slightly, optimistic take of how life is at the competition, but probably was better than here. Next one is October 25th. Well, we're done for. Jimmy left and locked us in for another air raid. TVs went out, Mabel got the radio working, but wasn't nothing on but some emergency broadcast signal. Finally came on and said China dropped the big one. Jimmy, that yellow bastard, must have headed for a vault when he figured out it was for real and left us here to starve. Ain't nobody gonna know we're in here on account of how he never lets us talk to the locals anyhow. The next one is December 23rd. Mabel's trying to rig that costume machine to make food. Something about molecules and organic whatnot. Didn't understand a word, but if she can turn my nightie into a cheeseburger, I'll go naked. Geraldine asked if it can make junk. She's out and jonesing bad. Ain't holding my breath neither way. After we seen that big radiation warning on the back, the rest of us decided to wait in the casino while she tinkers. And December 25th... Well, Mabel done blowed herself to bits like I figured. Now I wish I was with her, 'cause our hair's all fallen out and they taught us in school what that means. Merry effin' Christmas. Won't be long now, I guess. And January 13th. We ain't dying, but we ain't getting no better neither. I look like one of them pictures of rad victims, but I'm still breathing. Geraldine said it was God's wrath for our sins, so I smacked her shitless. Ain't God's wrath. Them teachers was just wrong about rads like they was wrong about everything else. February 2nd. I busted all the mirrors, but I'm probably too late. Half them girls wasn't right to start with, and seeing themselves like this pushed them right over. Geraldine figured out the attic windows wasn't locked and jumped. 3 stories down must have been a pretty mess. I was gonna follow her, but I seen a roach as big as my foot, and he looked pretty tasty. He was, too. And there's one undated entry. Ain't gonna write no more after this. Starting to sound as crazy as the rest of 'em. Too much thinking, not enough eating, I reckon. And while that's a harrowing and tragic account of what happened to the women who worked here, it does do more than just explain why the War Dramatic blew up. It's actually a necessary part of my master plan to take over Lollipops. Namely, drive the business into the ground so I can buy at rock-bottom prices before I sink any time and money into advertising and saloon upgrades. I did get some comments from people who enjoy Hilly's critiques of the prostitutes you hire, so I won't be quite as ruthless as I originally planned. I'll let him stick around until we're fully staffed, but I am going to get anybody I can hire without doing any advertising first to get those share prices headed in the right direction early. Which brings us to this shack in the very southwest corner of town. Right away, we have a ghoul who's easily mistaken for a feral, so if you have an itchy trigger finger, do not shoot her. On this skeleton, we have Kentucky's hat. Skeleton is presumably Kentucky. Let's talk to her.
Who are you again?
Actually, I don't think I've had the pleasure.
Have you met Kentucky? I'm his gal.
Kentucky's looking a bit thin. I don't think he's well.
He's a great mechanic, but he just can't keep up.
Evil spirit south of the schoolhouse? I guess that's you.
No, you're evil.
I know you are, but what am I? This dialogue is only unlocked because we picked up the diary. Bonnie's diary mentions a Geraldine. Did you work at the cherry orchard?
I used to be pretty, you know. Everyone used to come around all the time.
Used to be? Baby, you're the hottest 200-year-old I've ever met.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
So you were a prostitute before the war?
Oh, that's such a long story. You couldn't possibly want to hear about that.
The diary says you got religion before you escaped.
Not really. Oh, I was thinking about hell or the afterlife or something. I was just lost in my thoughts. You know how it is.
The others were still alive. Didn't you ever think about rescuing them?
Some of them went crazy. There's not really anything I can do.
Cherry Orchard girls dreamed of working at Lollipops, and as it happens, I'm the manager.
Yeah?
Lollipops is hiring.
Kentucky tells me I shouldn't do that.
And you can probably see where this is going. Just a moment, I think Kentucky wants a word with me.
He's up to something, but he isn't saying what.
And we just need to grab his hat. Once you have that, it unlocks different dialogue with her. Oops.
Hey there.
Let's talk about Lollipops.
Yeah?
I'm really sorry about Kentucky. His last wish was for me to take care of his hat. And, of course, his gal.
Shh, say no more.
And while it isn't immediately obvious from her somewhat disoriented dialogue, she will now follow you until you take her back to Lollipops. Most of the prostitutes you hire work the same way, although it's usually more obvious because they say, "Oh cool, let's go to Lollipops." They are temporary companions, and you can theoretically take them anywhere if you need a pack mule or an extra gun, but, you know, is a prostitute really who you want watching your back at the Battle of Hoover Dam? Some of them are tougher than others, and if you give them decent weapons and armor, can hold their own, at least at low level. I'm guessing the warning sign is more about the cherry orchard and the cliffs than Geraldine. I've never actually gotten into any trouble with her following me, so I don't know how tough she really is. I would imagine she's more survivable than, say, Angie, because she's been living on her own in the dangerous part of the valley for 200 years. Let's just pop into Saffron's house real quick. Nobody's home, but she won't mind if I have a drink. Yeah, once you get away from the cherry orchard and the canyon, the water is rad-free. Very nice. I'm not going to steal her stuff. Although, this wine glass is a unique item. Well, it's not unique, but they're added by the mod, and they're pretty rare, but I said I wasn't going to steal her stuff, so I won't. And over here, we have a holovid system. This cabinet holds a working holovid player and television, as well as a holovid collection. The owner is apparently a fan of pre-war romances. Which is interesting, because two mole rats strongly implied that his people had forsaken technology. So let's go across the street. Actually, the very first thing I want to do is get some food. My hunger meter is showing, and there's a garden right behind Saffron's house. Oh, but none of it's pickable. Bummer. Yes, a fresh carrot in her mailbox. I love carrots. That's not as non sequitur as it seems. Unlike most of New Vegas, the people here actually seem to use the mailboxes to trade stuff with each other. Anyway, if Saffron's at work, we can get another clue that Two Mole Rats was exaggerating a bit when he was telling us how off the grid they are.
All right, now let's talk about gear ratios. Everyone gather around and count the teeth on the big one. Take as much time as you need.
Excuse me, Miss Saffron? I have a question. Robots are neat, but if technology is bad, why are we learning to fix one?
Technology is not bad. Our ancestors just knew it would be a long time before anyone built new machines, so they didn't waste them on silly things.
Morning.
Thanks. That makes a lot more sense than Dad's explanation. You know how his stories are. Hi!
Hi. So long.
I'd love to chat, but would you kindly come by after class? The children are really engaged and I don't want to lose that momentum.
All right, will do. Those are some very well-behaved kids. They are totally not freaked out that a stranger from outside the valley and a ghoul just wandered into class. Yeah, this part of town is where I used to get the most lag, so maybe 3.3 did improve it a little bit. I archived a bunch of stuff to an external hard drive, freed up about 300 gigs, so now that Fraps has plenty of room to record video, everything's a lot smoother. This house with the decorative hangings is the town tailor's place, and there's another set of patterns for the war dramatic in here. Every time you pick one up, it adds a note to your Pip-Boy log about what outfits that one unlocks, and there's some technobabble about how it can use them in an electronic format or scan the old paper kind like you'd get in a fabric store. And that's what we have in here. Oh, I really don't like stealing from people this nice, but bobby pins. That's the pattern for tribal outfits. For some reason, this character is really short on bobby pins. Lone Wanderer Jeff in my Quo Vadis walkthrough had like 300 or something, but Courier Jeff only has like 20. I mean, technically it's not stealing because none of it is marked as owned, which in fact is kind of a plot point. Yeah, let's talk to Shelby.
Hola.
Hola.
We don't need to haggle. Just take what you need and leave what you think is fair.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear, because corn and carrots are two of my favorite foods. I mean, in real life, but also in the game. Maize especially, it has excellent hunger reduction, helps with dehydration more than most food, and no rads. Anyway, I usually travel pretty light, but hopefully I have something Shelby can use. 308 brass, yeah, they seem like they'd be into hand loading around here. And how about a pack of cigarettes? Because Westerners introducing sin and disease to isolated cultures never gets old. Yeah, they definitely seem to take their water situation pretty seriously around here. And over here, we have lots of building supplies. And over here as well. Oh, yeah. This is Perry's house. She runs the general store. Two Mole Rats says she's good at building stuff. And people tending a field of maize. The train wreck two mole rats mentioned. Over here we have fire and rain. I think she kind of imagines herself to be like a shaman or holistic healer or something, but she's more like, let's just talk to her.
Hey.
Can I buy some organic chems?
I can't put a tax on Mother Nature, man. Help yourself, but use responsibly. Dig?
This seems like recreation, not medication. I'm surprised your neighbors tolerate it.
You're harshing my buzz, man.
Want to pose for my geography magazine? It's all about world culture. Or porn, whatever.
Yeah, dude. Natch.
Well, we're killing many birds with one stone this week. Halfway here, we got a message that the studio was ready, and until that point, you can't ask anyone to pose for the magazine, even though some of them, like Fire and Rain, happen on the spot because they either can't or don't want to travel to the studio. Man, she is tall. There was almost no height variation in Fallout 3, and not that much in New Vegas, and no variation in build, which is one of the things that's cool about Quo Vadis and Coito Ergo Sum. The characters do have different physiques. Even vanilla characters have different body shapes when they take their clothes off for a photo shoot. Of course, in Fallout 4, there's a lot of variety in NPC height and build, but Belthan was ahead of his time here. Oh, anti-venom. I think I'm out after my rude reintroduction to New Vegas in Episode 1. And hand-rolled cigarettes are also situationally very useful. They give you night vision, slightly different visual effect than cat eye, but basically the same idea. And let's pop into the general store, see what's happening over there. Ichabod's the tailor, and we'll be talking to him a good bit later, and he hangs out in here all day with his buddy Nils.
Hello.
Hello.
Feel free to borrow whatever you need. If you want to keep it, you can drop off something else the next time you're here. We can always use more tools.
And again, more of the bartering honor system. There's nothing at all to stop you from just taking everything and leaving nothing. Well, other than your conscience, I guess.
Hello, I'm Nils, and my biggest claim to fame these days is my kids. The mayor and the blacksmith are my boys, and my little girl's the school teacher.
How come you spend so much time in here?
Now there's a tale. Some folks think I miss the old days when I was a big wheeler and dealer, so I still like being around the action. Some think it's because Olivia would put me to work scrubbing pots and pans if I hung around the house all day, which is probably true. Others think it's because this is the only place in town that runs the air conditioner, and that is pretty nice. But the truth of the matter is we spend most of our time in here because Ichabod has a hard time leaving Perry's behind.
Little Benny Hill style double entendre there. Why does two mole rats talk like that?
Now there's a tale. When he was 9, that was the summer we had the locusts, he found a holovid player in an abandoned house near the canyon. He got it powered and running and even found tapes that played. I wanted to scold him for being so far south, but honestly, I was too impressed. We watched a movie together, the two of us and Coyote.
What was it about?
A fella who could have solved his problems 10 ways that never occurred to him. If he knew he couldn't figure out how to fix it without spilling blood, he should have done that first and saved some film.
What happened?
After it was over, two mole rats pointed out that the sidekick should have been the hero. He talked funny, but he was the only character with any sense, and he saved the day in the end, even though the hero got the credit.
I don't see the connection.
He's been talking like that sidekick ever since. It amuses some folks and annoys some others. Most of us are just used to it. But I think the fact that he liked the sidekick better than the hero is a big part of why they made him the mayor.
All right. Goodbye.
Yatahe.
You have to read between the lines a little bit, but as you talk to people, there is some lore behind why they have different accents. And full disclosure, I voiced some of them, and Belthan specifically wanted certain accents for certain characters, so I know there's a reason behind it. It's just never really explained. And now we have officially discovered Pahrump. It's never explained much beyond the general idea of it being a multicultural society. Well, except to mole rats. Nils just explained that, and let's just assume the voice acting is brilliant, because plot-wise he's supposed to sound like he's imitating a movie, and not because my fake Native American accent is bad to the point of being insulting.
Welcome, stranger.
So here's another clue. Passed the perception check, but your explosive skill is not high enough to determine what started the fire which destroyed this structure. But the lingering odor of smoke and a significant layer of ash, which has not yet blown away, indicate it was recent. The presence of firefighting equipment and building materials nearby suggest this may be a recurring ritual. So we're starting to amass a lot of information about the residents and their lifestyle that indicate the mayor, force greeting us at the maintenance shed, was really trying to color our perception and make us see things in the valley in a way that isn't entirely accurate. Kind of dark in the gas station. The windows were all boarded up, so I guess that makes sense. Like almost every building in the mod, there's a light switch, and whoever lives here is apparently a fan of lollipops. Well, I know who it is. I will talk to him in a minute, but there's a unique item in here somewhere. Dino toy. Ah, yes. Action Abe action figure. And a bobblehead, although it doesn't actually do anything in terms of your stats, unlike Fallout 3. Yeah, duct tape caught my eye. I'm still in nasty Nate mode. I mean, it's valuable in New Vegas because it's an ingredient for weapon repair kits, but in Fallout 4, you will fight death claws or steal from your friends for a roll because adhesive is so rare. And here we have a fusion generator. This device is inoperative due to a burned-out plasma guide. The guide has been partially replaced with a hand-wound coil. Oddly enough, it looks like it will actually work once the repairs are complete. You get a different message on all of these clue items depending on your stats, and I think this one is science and repair, so I got the best clue.
Hey, a new face.
You live closest to the Iron Horse. Have you ever been beyond it?
What? You mean the train? Just to the bend. Beyond that, it's nothing but desert for at least 50 miles. Iron Horse. Seriously, man, who says that?
The mayor called the train an Iron Horse. I assumed it was local slang.
I should have guessed. If there's one person who'd call it that, it'd be my brother.
So you've never been out of the valley?
Didn't say that. I did the usual coming-of-age exploring thing. Climbed down the South Canyon to see why we get rad spikes in the water supply.
You have a Geiger counter?
You don't? I assumed there was one built into that wrist computer.
The water's irradiated.
Most of the time it's 100% clean, but every couple of years we get a spike. The levels aren't lethal, but they're too high to ignore, so we shut down the pumps and wait it out with what we have stored. We get the occasional sixth toe and that kind of thing, but the doc says that's mostly recessive mutations from right after the war.
And again, coming off a Fallout 4 walkthrough, when I asked if he had a Geiger counter, I expected him to say, "Mine's in the shop." Never mind. You had to be there. Anyway, I don't think I ever noticed it before because I wasn't in hardcore mode, so there wasn't any reason to drink from the sinks, but the water in the cherry orchard and Geraldine's house is irradiated, and farther from the canyon, it's rad-free, which is definitely a clue pertaining to the side quest he's about to give us. What did you find in the South Canyon? Evil spirits?
In a way, yeah. There's a huge toxic waste dump. They didn't even bother to bury it. But it turns out that's not causing the water problem. Water doesn't flow uphill, and if it did, we wouldn't get spikes. We'd have irradiated water all the time. It doesn't correlate with rainfall, or seasonal changes, or anything I could figure out how to fix, or even predict. So we just adapt.
And there's the quest, Sins of Our Ancestors. Did you know there's a ghoul living near the canyon?
Feral?
We had a chat, so I'm thinking no. A bit distracted, though.
Well, if he's not a homicidal maniac, he's welcome to trade with us or just make acquaintances.
I know it's kind of hard to tell, but it's a she. She's right behind me, and I'm pretty sure she's harmless. I wouldn't be running around with her otherwise.
Same thing applies. We won't invade her privacy, but if she feels like being neighborly, she's welcome here.
Well, thanks for the chat.
My pleasure. Anything else?
I see you're working on a fusion generator.
It's kind of a hobby. I fool with it when I don't have a lot of other work waiting.
Why don't you just replace the tube? Calibrating that spark gap's gonna be a bitch.
Tell me about it. But I've pulled apart every radio and TV in the valley and can't find one with the right specs. Hey, if you ever find a 3M6K or something close, bring it back to me. I'd trade you something good for it.
I'm confused. I don't usually associate primitive people with fusion generators.
Come again?
Sorry, no offense. The mayor said your tribe had forsaken technology.
Oh, that. My brother thinks it avoids unwanted attention from outside the valley. A lot of people think it makes sense. And the rest of us play along to humor him.
Can I ask you something else about the valley?
I'm not much of a storyteller, but I'll answer what I can.
Nothing about the police station. Never mind.
My pleasure. Anything else?
It's weird. Almost nobody charges me for anything, and if they do, it's not much.
We all have something someone else needs, and when the value's obvious, like food or time, we just trade. Currency is like a rifle. Sometimes you really need it, but if you don't understand how it works, it's dangerous.
But we don't really trade. They just let me have stuff.
Yeah, if Shelby's maze isn't ripe yet, she can still get a carrot from Chula.
And Chula keeps track of what Shelby owes her?
No, Shelby does. Chula's not a banker, and Shelby's not a thief.
Well, how am I supposed to know what your time is worth?
You don't. You know what your time is worth.
Then how do you know what my time is worth?
I don't. I only know what my time is worth. Look, say you're a good hunter and I'm a good blacksmith. You could make your own arrowheads, but that would take your time away from hunting. I could hunt my own food, but that would take me away from the forge. So when we trade meat for arrowheads, we're really trading our time.
Money's not that hard to understand. The more you have, the more you can do.
No, that's the wrong idea. Currency isn't a thing you can accumulate. It's a unit of measurement for value. You wouldn't just ask for 5 gallons or 5 pounds. You'd ask for 5 gallons of water or 5 pounds of maize. It's the same with currency.
Yeah, but I can ask for 5 caps.
It would have been easier to explain when currency was just ones and zeros in a computer. Using caps as currency makes it harder to understand because caps do have some intrinsic value. I can beat one into a fish hook or melt down 100 to make a tool. They only become currency when you say, give me 5 caps worth of fish hooks.
Aha! And then you would have 5 caps.
Right, because 5 pounds of fish hooks have a different value than 5 pounds of maize. But 5 caps worth of fish hooks and 5 caps worth of maize have the same value. See?
You mean the physical caps are just an IOU that someone else might honor later?
Exactly. It's nice to talk to somebody who gets it.
And can you repair my gear?
Sure. I'll have to charge you for parts and materials, though. If they grew on trees, maybe not, but I'm no good with plants.
Ooh, I expected him to be better at repair than that. Never mind.
That should last a while.
And as we saw in the garage, he's aware of Lollipop's pre-war publications, and you can convince him to pose for the magazine or eventually even be in porno movies, but not right now.
If my brother asks, all I said was, Yata hey, You are welcome in this valley, stranger.
All right, I kind of lost track of time, and I suspect this is going to be a pretty long episode even after I edit it, so I'm going to call it a day, and we can find the police holotapes next week. See you then.